So we are going to do some coloring techniques with coloring pencils. So first things first, how to color. Now, of course, we talk about craftsmanship a lot, and we normally want to color, or typically want to color in one direction, okay? Now, there's a difference between the intent of something looking a certain way when coloring, but if your intent is to maintain neatness, you want to make sure that you're always coloring in one direction. Okay, so you're gonna take a colored pencil, and let's say I've got a circle here. Then you want to color in that circle within one direction. Okay. So that the coloring appears soft, you don't see any indents or hard lines. It's all kind of blending together, making one color, which is green. And here's what you don't want to do. So we don't want to do this. Okay. Again, all about the intent, okay? If your intention is to make something look messy, then there's a certain way to go about doing that. But when learning how to use the materials, you want to learn how to use them correctly first before you move on to expanding that and altering the material to benefit or to change meaning within your work, okay? So we want to color lightly, we want to color inside the lines and in one direction, okay? Again, same thing with colored pencils as it is with painting and everything else. Less is more, okay? So the less we add, the more we can add on later, but if we start too dark, then we can't take that away. It's hard to erase colored pencils, so you want to start lighter before you move on to darker, okay? Now, so now that we've got coloring down, okay, now there are a few different techniques that you can use when using colored pencils, okay? One of them is, forming value without actually smudging like you would with a pencil. So our value techniques are the hatching, cross hatching, stipple, okay, and then of course you could do like random. Alright, so we know these. Alright, hatching, okay. When creating value without smudging, you want to think about the lines, and the closer the lines are together, the darker it's going to appear, but the further those lines are from each other, the lighter something is going to appear, and that goes the same for all of these. So for cross-hatching, same thing. The closer they are, the darker it will appear. The further away they are, the lighter something will appear. Okay, you can also think of it as like pressure-wise. Harder pressure, you're going to get darker values. Lighter pressure, you're going to get lighter values. You can think of it as almost like an airplane taking off. So the airplane is on the ground, and it gradually comes up and lifts off the ground. Okay, so we don't go from here to here. We go a gradual from dark to light. Okay, so we don't do this to that, to that. Okay, we don't jump from one to the other. We start and we gradually lift off. So we start dark, hard, hard, hard pressure, lighter pressure to even lighter pressure, and spacing those apart. Okay, so cross hatching is where we cross our lines. I typically do one direction first, and then I will go back on top to do the cross on the other side. Cross hatching is nice to give, I think, for like a texture. Alright, stippling. We all love stippling. It's the dots. Okay. So the closer the dots are, the darker something will appear. And then as we start to separate our dots, the lighter something will look. I'm also using lighter pressure. Okay. Random is kind of like a scribble. Okay. You can also shade forms this way. So, I don't know, let's say I've got my circle, okay? Okay. All right, so when mixing colored pencils, there's a few different things that you can do. So you can do hatching or cross-hatching, stipple, or random. So for instance, I can take red, and blue to maybe make like a purple, primary colors. Okay. Same thing with cross-hatching. You can also blend two colors in together by using kind of like a technique of watercolor, which is the gradient or blending, by kind of going dark to light here and then dark to light on the other side and blending in the middle. Okay. So there's also, you can do what's called burnishing, which is pretty cool. So you're gonna take two colors and blend them together. So you're gonna overlap them. So I'm gonna do a blue and a red. And then you take a white and you use a little bit of a harder pressure and you rub that on top. So this is called burnishing. Okay, so I'll show that again. So one color, another color on top, and then you take a white with hard pressure, and this is called burnishing. So it's just taking white over top as almost kind of like a blending tool. Okay. I've also seen people use people use the colored pencil dust, which is pretty neat. So what you do is take colored pencil and a sharpener, and you're going to kind of sharpen it. Put the stuff on the paper. Take a piece of paper. And then use it to kind of get a nice pastel, very, very light color. Okay. Let me do that with a darker color too so you can see. So again, sharpen your pencil, put the dust there, or the shavings, and then you use that to create a nice pastel, very light, kind of smoky, blended color. So good for blending, good for kind of making smoke or any type of texture or effects. Also good for kind of just filling in any white spaces that you might need. Alright, so another technique which is really cool that you can also use when using pastels is a rubbing technique. So you can take like an object and you can put it underneath the paper, and then you can take a colored pencil and color on top. And it's really cool for textures. So if you have an item that has a lot of texture in it, it's good for making textured backgrounds or maybe repeating patterns, which is pretty cool. So you can pretty much take anything that has a texture. If it's too soft, it probably won't give the texture that you want, like this here. So it needs to be something hard. So this is kind of like a felt sticker that's not stuck to my paper. But you can see that you're not gonna get anything there. So let me try, I'm gonna try a stencil. says stencil. The stencil's working because it's got hard edges and it's risen up enough to where you can still see the numbers that are coming through. So let me... Okay. So feel free to try those and maybe even come up with your own. Cool. Thanks.